What is up, guys? It's your boy Jake from Team Insanity, and today I am bringing you the GI Sportz LVL hopper review. Now, a lot of you guys know I've had this hopper for a hot minute. Okay, I really have. I've had this hopper for a while, and I've been using it for a solid about since it came out. So I've been using it for over a solid year. I used it for basically the entire season, over an entire season. So I've been using it for a while. And the reason why I haven't been wanting to give a review on it is because I've just had so much mixed emotions about it. When it came out, I'm just like, God damn it, I'm going to have to buy that hopper so I can make a review on it. That's literally the only reason why I bought this hopper, okay? I didn't need an extra hopper. I have way too many of them. But besides that point, yeah, I have a couple different hoppers here to compare to it. So I'm going to get right into it. This is, honestly, I'm going to sort of give you like a little background. My favorite hopper almost of all time that I just really love, that I always reach in my gear bag and I'm always just like, I just want to use it all the time, is my Empire Z2. I've noticed with that hopper, you either love it or you hate it. You either use it or you just don't use it at all. You use it once and you're just like, man, I don't use it. I like it because it's light. It just works. I've never had it jam. The battery life on it is fantastic. The only thing that I really have to complain about that hopper is just the fact of the speed feed pops open a little bit too much, so I tape mine down. But other than that, that hopper is just a workhorse. It feeds amazing. I don't have any jams, like I said. I've gotten a bunch of rocks in there, a bunch of paint, a bunch of broken paint. It just feeds everything, and it runs phenomenally. So that is like one of my all-time favorite hoppers that I use all the time. I pretty much use it everywhere because it's super light. I like to put it on my pump, super quiet, that kind of stuff. So when I saw GI Sportz, GI and Empire obviously are basically the same. So when I saw GI Sportz coming out with another hopper, I was like, sweet, I'm going to have to buy it. And to be honest, when I figured out exactly what it was, I was like, I don't want to buy it, because if you guys understand, this is basically the machine gear, okay? Now, long story short, I hate everything about Machine. I hope one of their people from their video is watching. The owner is a complete joke. They steal a lot of designs. They make a lot of very shitty products, and they ripped off a lot of their customers. When you bought the 1800, the stupid dollar mark Machine Vapor, you were supposed to get a Machine gear with it for free. Machine couldn't release it. They never made it. Yada yada yada. Long story short, eventually, like 2-3 years later, I think it was maybe like a solid 2 years after, they finally like came out with like the finished prototype where they could actually sell it. It was ass. It was absolute ass. By the way, those people that bought the Machine Vapor that didn't work, 9 times out of 10 didn't work, because it was just a shitty concept design, and that they were supposed to get the hopper to go with it. They never got the hopper. So they bought something, they didn't receive it. So yeah, great company ethics. Anyways, so that's sort of like a backstory. That is what this hopper basically boils down to. GI Sportz bought the rights from it, and when I had the opportunity, I was one of the very lucky people to actually use the Machine gear. There's videos of it on this channel, and I have one of the first ones that was ever released, and thankfully I had the opportunity to use that piece of shit, because if I didn't have that opportunity, I think I'd be a little bit more harsh on this review, because I see what GI Sportz did to this when it used to be the GI, before it was the GI, before it was this LVL hopper, when it was the Machine gear. So the old Machine gear, instead of this button right here, we're going to get to that noise in a second. Before this little button right there was like a sensor. Like, to turn it on and off, like, you had to like press it, and there was like, I'm pretty positive it's the same exact thing as this, except they just put a button in it. All it was a sensor this size. You would wave it, it would turn on, and if you like waved like twice or something, it would turn off. And like, if you had a jam and then you waved it once and it was turned on, then it would pulse. And it was like having a sensor in I'm just sort of sitting there, and I was looking at it in the pits before I used it. I'm like, that's a cool concept, but I'm like, that probably works like ass. And I'm like, it probably really doesn't work like the way it should have. And it really didn't. It was probably the worst design I've ever seen in any. It was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And the reason why is because when I would have the hopper faced up right here, since it was a motion sensor, if I'm snap shooting or I would head check, if I would just head check like that, it would pick up on my head movement. Sometimes the hopper would turn off, or you had to like hit a button or do see, I don't know. But every time that I would like head check, or if I started running in the woods, if I was running with my gun down, it would pick up on my clothing moving and pick up on my jersey, because I wear baggier jerseys, especially in the woods. When I'm running, that sensor would catch, and you would hear this every time. That's what you would hear running through the woods. That was me at Area 51 with the machine gear. I was running through, and every time that I brought my gun back and it would get like a little motion of my jersey, it would just every time I would head check, it would just every time I was like popping out of my bunker and looking around. That's all I heard. It would turn on, it would turn off. It was turning on and off in gear bags. The next day it turned on when like it moved in my gear bag or something. The batteries were completely fucking dead, so I didn't get to the battle in the opening time. But GI Sports got rid of that, and they made it a button like how it should be. And they made the speed feed a lot better, like way better. That speed feed that I had on there was ass. It was a brand new speed feed, and it fell apart on me, and I had to use basically a makeshift lid. I had to like put like the HK Army, I forgot what it was. The HK Army has like the rain lid thing. I had to do like the rain lid thing from one speed feed to this. It was ass. It was absolutely, long story short, fucking terrible. It was probably the worst designs I have ever seen in my entire life. And it looked exactly like this. Super, I mean, not super amazingly good looks, but it's kind of ugly, and that just sort of set it all off. And on top of that, it was super cheap plastic. It was garbage. I felt like it was going to fall apart in my hands. Absolute horse shit. I remember specifically the feed neck looked so thin, and it felt so thin when I was looking at it and using it. I was just like, whoo! I was like, wow, that like I feel like if I look at that feed neck the wrong way, it's gonna break it, like just from me looking at it, like glaring at it. So that's sort of the machine gear portion of it. Obviously, so the looks really didn't change too much. They had like a cheaper plastic. Now, fast forward, GI Sports gets to it. They changed that whole stupid sensor button, and the machine gear, when it actually came apart, it was the dumb, like it basically, like you had to break it in your hands to pull it apart. Like the whole system of pulling it apart, like it just freaked me out, especially because it wasn't my hopper when I was using it. I was like, well, okay, like I'm breaking this hopper. Like I literally, like when I was pulling it apart, I was like, I'm going to break this hopper. Like this is bad. So, but GI Sports, they reinforced it, so how you actually open it up, so that also this speed feed does open up like that as well. There's like this little tab. You push that up, or you hold it up, and then this little tab you pull back, and then it comes apart much easier, and it feels a lot cheaper when it's coming apart. Like the plastic is actually a little bit thicker, or it's either thicker or it's just a different plastic. I think they went to a different plastic all around. This is what it looks in on the inside. It's something very, very simple. So taking it apart now, so they got rid of the sensor. So this is sort of how I'm going to break it down. I'm going to sort of compare it to what GI Sports has done with the machine gear. That's sort of how I'm gonna go in this video, because like I said, I think if I wouldn't have used the machine gear, I would have hated this hopper a lot less. But I just sort of see what GI Sports has done with this, and I see where they've really fixed a lot of things that they've done, or that the stupid machine company did with it. So it comes apart super easy. I mean, obviously, if you're having issues with it on the field, you can rip it off right there. You can clean it out. Very easy to clean, and it's a very simple design in here, and I haven't had any jams on it. Thankfully, it's sort of made like a rotor. Basically is how it's done. The paint falls, and there's no tray or anything, but when it's sitting up like this, if you look at it, it's raised up in the back, so the paint falls in front of it a little bit more. So it feeds up here more in the front of the hopper, and there's like these little tabs that sort of stick out. Honestly, when I sort of looked at it and I watched it in person, I was like, it's like, wow, I'm like, I have no idea how that's going to feed paint. I was like, that looks really, really dumb. And I'm just like, I really don't think it's going to feed that fast, because the rotor has like 3 different things like spinning at once. Okay, so if you've never seen a rotor work before, I have one. This is one of the original rotors. This is the V1 with a bunch of paint still in it. So you have this portion where this spins to catch the paintballs and put it in, and then the shark fin at the bottom that spins at the same time. So they run pretty similar. Machine also stole the eye pipe design, but that's a different, you know. Not sure if the rotor was their inspiration with this, but besides the point. It runs fairly simply, and when I first saw it and I looked at it, I was like, that's not going to feed paintballs that good. And originally it really didn't, but the GI just sort of finessed it a little bit, and it feeds great. I haven't had any jams with it, which is one of my biggest, honestly, that's sort of like my biggest concern, especially playing tournaments and being, there's no higher end hopper, even mid end hopper, there is no reason it should jam feeding paint. There's just no reason at all. So, thankfully, I haven't had any jams. It actually hasn't broke any paint to me, which is the most surprising thing. I've been trying to get this to break paint, and I haven't been able to break paint. One, because when it gets near the end of the paint, if it doesn't, it needs torque on the ball sack to actually be able to somewhat stop the drive. So if there's just a couple paintballs in here, this is spinning with a couple paintballs. Gotta turn that off since it's so loud. I'll get to that. But so it's still spinning with paintballs in there. I'm like, wow, that's just gonna shred paintballs. It hasn't shredded a single paintball, and I've used it for over an entire season. And that's what I've been waiting for it to do, because I specifically remember I used the machine gear for 2 days and I shredded a couple paintballs. Not many, but I had an issue like once or twice. And again, when I was out there on the field and I was like trying to take it apart, I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna break this hopper. And it was like on my gun. The feed neck was like flopping around in my gun, or like my feed neck holding onto it, like the hopper was doing one of these kind of things, and I was like, I don't like this at all. So the GI, just me looking at it, I can see where they definitely have improved the design of it, of course. This is how you pull out the tray. You sort of like, you basically lift it up and pull it. It almost comes apart like the Spire. So there's not much in here to really, hold on, let me see if I can get the button to turn on. So there's like a little little eye sensor in there that gets it to stop. But again, if it's having a problem feeding those last couple paintballs, which I've noticed, it doesn't have it that often, but like if I put a couple paintballs in there, they'll sort of popcorn for a second, and I just sort of remember when I bought it, I just left a couple balls in there and they kind of spin around. I'm just like, this is totally going to just shred thinner paint, and it totally hasn't. And I'm really surprised by that it hasn't had those issues, and that was one of the things that the machine gear had. Big improvement again, that it just does not shred paint. So that's that. There's the little anti-jam button. If the on-off button, if you hit it once and not hold it down, it pulses. So if you do have some sort of jam blocking the eyes, so my finger's in there blocking the eyes right now, it's not running. That's like your little anti-jam. To turn it off, you have to hold the button and it goes red. It took me a second to get used to holding down the button. You takes your batteries, 4 AA's, and then this is your motor right here. This entire thing is your motor. This big black piece right here, this whole thing that I'm circling, this is a whole moving. This whole thing moves the entire time. So if I turn this on, I'm not sure how well you can see it, but it's moving on the side. So let me talk about the things that I like that GI Sportz did. Okay, they got rid of the sensor. They just made it an easy on-off button. 1. 2, they made the plastic not as cheap, and it doesn't feel like it's going to fall apart in your hands. 3, the speed feed is a lot nicer than the original speed feed. Again, I haven't had this break. Like I said, the one machine gear that I had, the speed feed actually broke on me after 2 days of use. It broke on me on the second day, so that was that. Also, comes with the speed feed, and the cool thing is it has the rain on it. It comes stock with a speed feed, which to me is incredible, because everyone comes stock with a lid, but no one uses a lid anymore. The only time I ever use a lid is if it rains, and a lot of times I'm not playing in the rain unless if it is either A, a tournament, or B, a big game that I paid a lot of money for. And even if it's a big game, I normally will wait out the rain. I'll sit there and drink a couple beers and watch the rain. So with that being said, I think that's awesome how they improved the quality a lot from the original design. Now, here we go to the bad part that I still don't like. One of the things is that for what it is, it is it's a super light design. I mean, that's another, I would say that's a pro. It's small, and this is a Spire 260, so you can sort of see what it is compared to a Spire 260. Definitely this is a little bit smaller for sure. Here's one of the original rotors, side by side. Let me try to line them up. Basically the same size as the original rotor. The rotor's a little bit taller, but the LVL is a little bit longer. And here's with the R2 now. I obviously have more hoppers to compare to it. Like, I have the TFX and everything, but I just really didn't feel like breaking it out. That sort of gives you an idea. A couple rotors and a Spire gives you an idea. So they've improved it. It's light. It's obviously a little bit heavier than the original model, but you know, it is what it is. And honestly, it comes apart a little bit easier for sure. It definitely does, because it's basically the same design as what it was before, but they just improved it so it doesn't fall apart in your hands and it doesn't break. So I'm very happy that GI Sports has changed that. But the other thing is that I can't get over that noise. This is the loudest hopper on the market. Like, that is so incredibly loud. And let me tell you, I guess, like, I wish it wasn't that loud, but there has been times where I'm, like, out on the field, I'm getting down to my last couple shots, or I'm sitting there and I'm getting ready to make a move to a bunker, and all of a sudden I just hear, and I'm just like, oh shit, maybe I should double pot in there before I move, and then I finally make my move, kind of thing. Like, so that's kind of that. But again, it's like way too loud. The rotor is one of the loudest. Like, I was like, damn. I'm just like, man, this rotor's loud, because I was like used to using a Spire where all you hear is poof, poof, poof. Like, you don't hear anything with the Spire. I was just so used to the Spire, and you know, even the TFX is pretty somewhat quiet. That's the rotor. And when I listened to the rotor, like I said, compared to everything else, I was like, oh, okay, that's a little bit louder. And I'm just like, no big deal. It's not going to give away my position. Then you get this in your hands. It's like a fucking Yeti. Like, it's just a Yeti calling his people. So they need to somehow make it quieter. It's a cool design, but they need to make it quieter for sure. The other thing is again, with the build quality of it that I see, GI Sports, again, like I said, they've sort of improved the plastic, but it just doesn't come together right. Like, I always have this issue. I'm not sure if you can see the front of the hopper, but it doesn't click together right all the time. It doesn't, like, the nose is not completely shut. Like, I put it together right all the time, but like I have to like almost push it down, and like, yeah, there we go. So I had to like snap it into place, but then it just comes like undone eventually. So like it doesn't fit together correctly, and I still see like the machine people that design this hopper, I still see some of the shitty qualities behind it, like the nose, for instance. And if I get shot on the front of my hopper, or if I rub a lot of paint on the front of my hopper, it leaks into that seam. And because the seam is right on the front, like you can see where all the yellow paint is coming in at, right on here. So even though I lock it down, it's in there. Like the hopper is not, like it's not going anywhere. It's just, it doesn't go together. Just, it doesn't, like the seam on the side, it just doesn't like I should not have to, like, you should not hear that when you just heard like all that cracking to like put everything into place, and like, oh, there it is. So like it doesn't take much, and like it just doesn't fit together right. Obviously, I mean, I can sit here and pull this thing, it's not coming apart. So I mean, it's definitely on there correctly, but I can see straight into the hopper just looking right through here. Like if there was paintballs, and like I can see straight out. If I look in this speed feed, I can see straight out. So that, again, like that should not be on a build quality of a hopper. You should not have these giant gaps where paint and debris and grass and dirt and dust and that kind of stuff can get to your paint. Especially, like, I didn't use this at Dreaded Legends. Last year at Dreaded Legends, which is technically this year because it's still 2017. So the year of 2017, they changed the final battle hill to where it was all dirt and sand. Like they made a mounds field basically, and it was all dirt and sand. And I think I'm almost positive I had this hopper then. Yeah, I'm almost positive I still had this, but I didn't use it because I didn't want dirt and shit getting in here. I ended up using the rotor on 260. I used my R2 on 260, and the rotor, I mean, you sort of have those lines, but I can't see through them. Like, they're sealed. They're 100% sealed. And I played on that field with this hopper, and there was dirt flying everywhere. People would shoot at me, and fucking dust would go everywhere. And it was all, like, I used the lid and everything. Like, there was dirt and debris and everything flying all over the place. None of it got to my paint. Absolutely none of it got into any of my paint. If I'm out on, like, the woods ball field, not even playing, like, I play in Michigan, so, like, if I played in, like, a more southern, like, where there's a lot more, like a desert, like, if I played in Arizona, because I play in Arizona from time to time, if I played in Arizona, I would not be buying or using this hopper, just because it just doesn't seal correctly around certain parts of the, I mean, even, like, around the speed feed. Like, the speed feed just doesn't snap down, like, all the way, so I still see, like, these shitty design flaws where it's just sort of, like, rushed and put together, and they're like, okay, send them out. Like, I see that portion of it where they need to slow down and they need to fix some of these build issues, because I should not have that on my hopper. Playing speedball, no big deal until paint starts leaking in. It takes a lot of paint for that, or it takes at least one nose shot for a lot of paint to get in there, and it just completely ruins your paint. But if you can get a lot of dirt and dust and just shit in there, and that's what really, I mean, there's, believe me, I don't like it, but I like it a lot. I like it a lot more than what I originally liked on that machine gear, because the original machine gear was the worst. I would rather use a shake and shoot hopper, because honestly, the shake and shoot hopper was more effective on the field than the old original machine gear was, especially with, like, the motion sensor and how it was just put together. It was just wobbly, but I still see sort of those bad build qualities in this. Like, I sort of see, like I said, how it just doesn't fit together, how loud it is. Like, you can't tell me they can't put a motor in there or find some type of design to tweak it a little bit so it's not so goddamn loud. The other thing is that I can't my head explodes. Like, I don't know who's designing their stuff at GI Sportz, but fucking hell, your guys' extra capacity body shell that they released for it, look it up if you guys haven't seen it. It looks like Mr. Krabs' daughter, whatever, that giant whale with the long face. Like, it basically comes out to here, and it, like, raises up and comes back down. Like, it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It's the goofiest looking design, and I sat there and I looked at it, and I'm like, oh my sweet Jesus. I'm like, they must have took some good drugs before they designed that extra capacity load, or that extra capacity shell for this, because it is fucking hideous. It's one of the ugliest things I've ever seen. So again, I just wish, like, GI Sportz would sort of slow down. I really like what they've done with it, but there's just a few things, and it's not just on my hopper, because I've seen a lot of other ones. I go to Lone Wolf Paintball's Pro Shop, and I was sneaking around when we were making the Spire 2 video. We made a hopper video, and Tony had one of these, and I was just sort of looking at it, and I was like, okay, and I looked at the nose, I was like, alright, good, it's just not my hopper. A couple of my buddies have it, and I take it, I'm like, alright, just not my hopper, yep, and it doesn't connect there, and I just kind of, so it's not just my hopper, it's pretty much every other LVL I've ever seen. So, that's sort of my thoughts on it. I think it's nice. I think it's cool for the price point. I like that it comes with the speed feed stock. That was honestly, the only reason why I bought it. That, and because I knew I had to make a video of it. To be honest, like I said, I don't like it. There's still a couple things, like, it's just super loud. I still don't like the build quality of it, but considering I see where it was, and now I see where it's at, and I do like it, because, like I said, I see a lot of improvement, and that is what I wanted to see, and that's like the main thing. There's a lot of improvement from over the original one. They basically made an unusable hopper very usable, and you can definitely use this, and you can win tournaments with it. You can definitely use this. The machine gear, you cannot use that. So, that's sort of the rundown on this. I hope this helps you out, guys. Just another look. GI, please stop making ugly, like, attachments for this thing, because it was the goofiest motherfucking thing I've ever seen on a goddamn hopper. The Spire is a little bit fatter. The other one, actually, I almost forgot. One of the other cool things is, or one of the things that I wish that was done a little, I don't mind it. I originally, like, if you look at the rotor, where it sits on your gun, so you have all of this space in the back, so all your paint is forced back here, okay, so when you're holding your gun, your heavy part of your gun is on your tank already. Okay, that's your heavy part. Okay, when you're having a tank on your gun, that's your heavy part. So when you take a rotor and you take a spire, for instance, look at where the difference is, where the feed neck of the spire is at. It's more placed in the middle. Obviously, you still have a lot more space in the back than compared to the front. But if you look at the rotor, see how it's more towards the front? This is one of the reasons why I don't use the rotor, because the rotor's a little bit heavier as it is, but where the spacing is, there's a lot more paint, and I feel like the paint is more heavier towards the back end, where the heavy part of the gun is already at, where the tank is at. So I feel like, especially coming off the start box, the gun is just sort of unbalanced when I'm trying to pull my gun up. I'm trying to get my gun, I have to like sort of adjust on the brake, because I'm like I mean, it just takes a second to get used to. The LVL, it's sort of spaced in the middle as well, where the spire is at. You can sort of see where the spacing, you know, how much space that there is with the feed neck differences. I mean, you can definitely see that where it's spaced. It's more so in the middle, so it feeds out more so for the middle. So I actually feel like on the brake, especially getting my gun up, it counteracts the tank a little bit, so there's not so much heavy paint in the back, and it's more towards the front, and it feeds more so toward the front. So they take the hopper and they push it up a little bit farther. They push it up just a little bit farther, so that way I can actually sort of feel a difference compared to the rotor, and compared to I believe the TFX is another one where I just sort of get the gun up off the brake. I'm like, that's just kind of, I don't know. I just really like this hopper off the brake. I like it like how I like my spire off the brake. It just fits in a good spot on the guns that I have. So that's another plus of it. So I like where they're going. I just don't think it's finished. That's sort of my review on it. I hope this helps you out, guys. Sorry, I just thought about that last little point. So GI Sportz LVL hopper. Thanks for watching. If you guys think of something else or have any other questions, go ahead and message us on Facebook. Link is in the description.